Today, clergy members from around Chatham County got tips from law enforcement experts about what safety measures they need to protect themselves from an active shooter.
It's all part of a quarterly training through the Chatham Emergency Management Agency's Disaster Faith Network.
Sean Evans spoke with leaders from the host church and SEMA about some of the topics they focused on today.
Representatives with Chatham Emergency Management Agency tell me that every municipality within Chatham County was represented here today, about 100 people from around 30 houses of worship throughout the county. It's preparation for a worst-case scenario situation, an active shooter inside a church.
Churches aren't exempt from situations like this. How could we forget about Charleston? It was a church.
Kingdom Life Christian Fellowship pastor Charles Roberson is talking about the 9 members of Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina, who were shot to death back in 2015. And in a recent example of potential violence against a house of worship, the FBI warned synagogues in San Antonio of a potential security threat within the past couple of weeks.
The real hope is that it never happens, but if it happens, we want to have a plan and we want to kind of know what our steps are going to be.
To help the room full of church leaders formulate a plan and to start to think about what steps they may want to consider to make their house of worship a harder target, representatives from the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Brunswick, Department of Homeland Security officials, and local police leaders shared their expertise and strategy suggestions, including looking at whether or not to arm certain members of the congregation.
Different churches will have to come up with a strategy that fits their organization. So some churches may choose to do that. It may come to that. I'm hopeful that it won't come to that for us.
Host agency SEMA says they're appealing to Chatham County's churches and their leaders with this training because they know the influence and reach each has.
It's not about living in fear. It's making sure that you know what can happen, educating your people as to what could happen and what your response needs to be.
In Savannah, Sean Evans, WTOC News.